States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone at home. Justin, did you read this over?
The certifications and assurances, I did.
And it's all okay?
Sign that? Yeah, I have to sign one as well.
Okay,
Sure, I'll do it after the meeting.
okay.
Yes, it's fine.
That's good, because I don't understand it, but that's all right. Many things I don't understand. Public comment, anybody have anything they'd like to say? Anybody? Public comment? Yes? No? Oh, good, you're awful quiet, how come?
I'll wait to hear what you guys say.
Oh, I got it. I have the minutes of the meeting at February the 28th. Someone like to approve the minutes?
I make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried, thank you. I received in the mail, and I think I passed it on to you, Justin, about this subsidized financing amendment. I got another letter identical today, but official. It was actually signed by this Maureen Coleman. Said the same thing exactly.
It's very good news, right? It's a state subsidy paying part of the interest on the Fort Montgomery Sewer Improvement Area project.
Do you have any idea on how good a news it is? I mean, how much money we would be saving?
I didn't bring it with me. Is there on the letter I got, there was a schedule attached, but it
Yeah.
was approximately $6,000 a payment, $6,000 per
Yes.
payment?
The total is about 272,000.
Yes, because there's 30
We
years.
would be
of
saving.
payment.
Yes.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah, it was wonderful news.
Yeah, yeah. Especially we didn't ask for it, but it was just, although I guess on the original agreement, they said this might happen,
Correct.
the original agreement. So that's very good news, good. Communications, that's all I have. Financial reports. We transferred $116,005 from the consolidated account to the accounts payable to cover this week's check run. The larger expenditures was ACT leasing, highway superintendent's truck lease payment, $15,750. New York State Municipal Workman's Comp quarterly payment, $33,264. Orange and Rockland Electric, including streetlights, $4,920. Ryder Wiener legal fees, including litigation, $6,681. Rockland County solid waste tipping fees, $12,470. Tri-Tech software for some police software for 21 and 22, $11,705. Any questions from the board on that? No. Questions? I changed my mind on what I was going to do about something, but and I'll explain to you later why I
Okay.
changed my mind.
That's your prerogative, sir.
I would rather not stir the pot, is what I'm trying to say.
Understood.
Board liaison reports. We'll start with the shortest one, Councilman Sullivan.
Thank you. So, cursory, I'm not totally prepared, but I'll fire this thing away. Thank you for the email, Mr. Supervisor, that you sent to all of us about the state telling us that on March 14th, today, work would start on a Popple Open Bridge after about a year and 3 months that attenuated truck has been sitting down there. The company is Harrison and Burroughs. I've actually worked for them 3 times in the last 35 years. They did Walkway over the Hudson. They're a very good company. I know the foreman, I know the project manager, so I have contacts down there if anybody has any issues. And I'm glad to see that's moving forward after a period of time. And part of the reason they were delayed is there's no blacktop plants open, and they're gonna need lane closures, and when they're plowing snow, you can't do it. So here they are. I try and touch upon the fact that on December 3rd this year, it'll be our 150th anniversary of starting as a town. So I did a couple of things. I met with Ronnie Coffey, our new historian, a couple of weeks ago. And Mary Jane had a thing in the paper, so I'm going to go ahead and read this off, that the church tour. Town of Highlands Historical Society will host an open house of at least 8 of the local churches on Sunday, April 10th, that's Palm Sunday, between 1 and 4 p.m. The event is to admire and appreciate some of the most inspiring, meaningful, and historic buildings in our community as we celebrate the 150th anniversary of the town of Highlands this year. Historian Ronnie Coffey said, more details will follow soon. Ronnie sent me an email that it's going to be on Channel 22 and on the Facebook page and all that. That's about all the detail there is, and they're trying to make it so that no minister or pastor has any undue expense or anything like that incurred. I think it's a nice way to start the ball rolling, and again, that's on April the 10th. And thank you for having that in the paper, Mary Jane. Let me see. In regard to that, and I actually put this on the Town of Highlands Facebook history page, I was kind enough to go down to June's office. They were kind enough to have me and Leslie, and I got the minutes, which are hard to read, from March 4th, 1873, which was the first meeting of the Town of Highlands after the December 3rd breaking away from Cornwall the year before. I'm working on transcribing everything. I can tell you our first town supervisor was William Avery, who his grandson had Avery Rental and was a judge here who my mother worked for back in the 70s. You probably have a list of the supervisors over all the history of the town, don't you?
Yeah.
And it was held at somebody's house whose name I can't read because it's beautiful calligraphy, but I can't read it, so I'm working on it. And at the same time, I went to Cornwall to see what they had to say about this, and I met with the newly elected, whose name I can't remember, town clerk up there. They broke out, what's her name?
Jennifer.
Thank you. She broke out the minutes from the same date, and I have a copy of those, which I'll also transcribe. And I'm happy to say there's some money that was owed. I check into that. We're good. We owed them $1,028 at that time. We're good on that. So we're solvent. It's all good.
Okay.
With the Zoning Board of Appeals, they will be meeting remotely this March 16th, this Wednesday, third Wednesday of the month as always. And as I always say, the link, anybody can tune in. Go to the Town of Highlands website, go to online meeting data. If you go down through, you'll see the link for it. Any agenda items or plans or anything. There's no public hearing. They have one new item on the agenda item. And again, that'll be this Thursday. With planning, they meet here on St. Patrick's Day. I'm sure they're really glad to be doing that. This Thursday night in person here. Is that correct, Justin?
That's correct,
Here,
in
not
person.
remotely. I don't know what's on their agenda. I don't remember if they did close the public hearing, but
Close
they're
the public
flats.
hearing, there's, that'll be the primary
Okay,
discussion.
okay. So that's Thursday night here in person. So quickly, because, I'm not the village government, but I live in the town, and because the planning, zoning, and building departments are town-run functions, just want to add a little something to what I saw. The business B3 and B1 zone in the village of Highland Falls are being looked at, and I watched part of the village meeting, and I'm glad that there were members of the ZBA and the planning board there. There weren't too many members of the public there, so it's mostly players in the game. It's important. And they did not close that public hearing. The next meeting they have, I think the public should make it their mission in life to go see what's going on. The developer was there, and I'm not going to get too involved. I don't want to sound like I'm persuasive or anything like that, but I live down in Fort Montgomery. And over the years, I have had a problem with cadets parking their cars on my lot that I've had to have towed, meaning I'm leading into parking. And at that meeting, there was only one person that even brought up the word parking, is they redo all this. So I haven't sent it out yet, took my AutoCAD out, was working up a little something. A parking space in the village of Highland Falls is 9 by 18. If you want to use 10 by 20, you can. The alleyways behind them are 24 feet wide. And if you take half of an alleyway and a parking spot, and say if you make that 1.5, because I don't know that it's wise not to have more than one parking spot per dwelling unit. And a dwelling unit has no dimension. It's just a dwelling unit. So they're looking for amount of square footage per dwelling unit. If you take the parking spots, and for 1.5 spots, you're gonna need 480 square feet just for that, without coming in and off the road, for entryways or anything like that. If you go to 2 spaces per dwelling unit, you're coming up with 640 square feet by default. If you read in that code, if it's 5,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet, there are requirements to have a truck loading space, which in their code, I believe, is 12 by 50 feet long. So that's an additional, altogether, you're coming up with 750 square feet by default. I think it's important that that be considered as they move forward, because I haven't heard anybody mention including that in their analysis. And that's as much as I have to say on that. You'll have your chance. Water districts. I met with Leslie, Pat, Tiffany, Kelly, and included June in my email of the beginning stages of addressing some inconsistencies. My computer down the supervisor's office was switched out. The future one, I'm gonna get Edmunds, and I'm gonna get Eye on Water. Because what happens, and I don't want anybody to say they made errors. I have done this job for the last 4.25 years, so I own it as far as I'm concerned. We're gonna fix it. Sometimes numbers are transcribed, and then they're handed over to be transcribed again, and they don't always get to where they need to be. And I'll say it again in front of all this public, I wish they were all analog. I really do. I really wish all 400 of them were analog, because what we've spent on 5G and 3G and radio controllers and Windows 7 and Windows 10 to try and keep up with all this stuff is amazing, but we will have it fixed before the end of the year. On Garrison Pond, I got this wasn't really on the agenda, I just want to talk about it. So those that live on the lake or in the town, we get this mail every year about what they're going to do to treat the lake. And I've been approached by 2 people in the community that are concerned about the swan's food. And when they treat the lake, is it hurting their food? And I feel a little bit bad because I kind of randomly dismissed that. After living there all my life, it's only been the last 2 years that the swans have left without reason. So, this guy that works for Solitude, who treats our pond, his name is Todd Schramm, I called him, and I'm going to read off what I read to him. I said, there used to be swans living on the lake, however the swans have left. Do you know if our treatments would have made them leave? This is last fall when they left. His answer, yes. The treatments have an effect on the swans leaving. As part of the contract, I treat weeds in the lake. One of the weeds is called coontail. This plant is one of the foods that the swans eat. Once I treat the weed in the lake, the weeds die, including the coontail, and the swans look for new places to get food. Now I have seen the swan there every spring, so they should come back in the spring. And in the thing they mail out, it says they don't treat until they actually see the invasive weed. They've been treating early a few years. I'm going to research this more. I'm just going to ask that they not treat right away. I'd rather they wait until we get a little bit more into the season. The swan is on the nest. She's been on it for the last 2 days. There's a set down at Brooks's that the female is not on the nest there yet, but she's getting close. So I'll work on that. With the sewer, I spent the day with Jimmy last Friday. He ran the belt press. I'm going to some night bring a video camera here and show everybody pictures of sludge being processed. After spending $3.6 million, it was a beautiful thing. And down at the plant, the monthly average flow for February was 94,000 gallons a day. We're rated 120. And the DMR in March, he normally computes it for what the year before was. Per day, February was 101,000 gallons per day. For all of last year, the average was 94,000 gallons per day for 2021. Make sure I get that right. I'm gonna let Joe speak more. Olga was kind enough to host a meeting for the Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee, and we have some things to talk about. I know Joe's gonna bring it up at her house last Friday. And the final thing is the O'Neill Drama Club. Yesterday at 3 o'clock, I went to the presentation of The Addams Family, and I can tell you that Uncle Fester fell in love with the moon. It was very good. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you for your report on water, sewer, and swans. Appreciate it.
And Uncle Fester.
And Uncle Fester. Councilman King.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, everyone at home. I don't have as much as my illustrious colleague, but I do have a few points. Start with, number one, the Emergency Management Coordinator, Mr. Kurt Hahn, is still working vigorously to get the Emergency Management Committee together to discuss, first of all, we gotta review the plans for disaster preparedness, and then he has some updates from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and in particular, stuff about dam safety. They want us to discuss, which could lead to a flood or something, right? So just wanted you to know that we're still working towards that, and that includes other people like some of our DPW folks and others. Once we get into emergency management, people like the police, the fire, and so forth. More to follow on that.
Ty, just so you know, I have a binder in my office that has to do with the dams and other public safety issues. I just got something new for Brooks's Lake Dam. But I do keep up with it. They'll send me something and they'll say, to take out the previous pages on Brooks's.
Okay.
Send them back to me and put in here, we got the new ones. So I do have this folder in my office, and if, what's his name? Kurt wants to come down and see it.
Okay. All right, that's good to know, Supervisor. Thank you. In regards to substance abuse and alcohol and drugs, those types of things that kind of plague us in a society, that is, we still have to review our plan that Ms. Tiffany did. I don't know that we've made a decision yet on that, on one way or the other on the board. And that leads into what the center is going to do here shortly. April 6th, the Community Coalition, which is a community resource for education and specifically resources addressing substance abuse. They're going to come and do a presentation via a meeting at the center, April 6th. It's going to be open to the community. Yeah, I want everybody to know that's something important. As I see some of the comments from people throughout the community, people are concerned about, bless you, about these type topics, Third thing is, I think we're getting close to wrapping up our police negotiations with the PBA. Still going very good. I think consistently, very, very positive meetings. And last week, we came to some agreements on some mutual areas. So I just have a gut feeling, nothing in writing just yet, but it seems as though we're going to get to the end of this thing pretty soon, hopefully. And I think that concludes my briefing.
Thank you, sir. Councilman DeWitt?
Thank you, sir. Start with easy stuff. The town is looking for a seasonal grass cutter. The information is on the Town of Highlands website, or they can call Tiffany up at the town office. That's 3800-446-3800. You'll see it on the website. They're offering between $15 and $20 an hour, depending on your qualifications. So if anybody's looking for summer work, please give a call to the town garage. Recycling report, they sold another 21 cans this week, which is a good thing. That means more recycling, less trash. We save money. Recycling was up 8 tons since our last report, which is really good news. If you need a recycling can, again, you can go to the Town of Highlands website or call the town garage, The large recycling cans go for $80.50. The smaller ones are $53. But please, if you're not recycling, please join. It's besides saving the earth, we save money here in the town and town-wide. So please look into it, or if you have any questions, or just give us a call. Richie passed on to me, we met with Olga with the CCA, which is a Jewel Energy. Did I say that right? Jewel Energy?
Jewel assets,
Jewel Assets.
not
Thank you,
Jewel
Rich.
Energy, Jewel assets.
A couple of things were about going forward with the aggregate. Did a date get set for the initial public meeting? I missed it. Could you yell it out to me?
The 23rd,
March 23rd?
Wednesday, March 23rd.
So on Wednesday, March 23rd, it'll be a Zoom?
Yeah, it'll be the first public meeting around the community choice aggregation.
Okay, so that is set. Okay, thank you, Olga. So, again, if you want information, the aggregate, it looks really promising. Besides tapping into renewable energy, we save money as a community on our electric bills. So it's a win-win. And in the current environment of the world, hey, look, if we could save money and be less energy dependent elsewhere, that's a good thing. So the first informative session to learn more about this, again, is on March 23rd. It'll be a Zoom call. We will have a link, again, on the Town of Highlands website directing you there to get the information out. And there's going to be, I think it's going to be weekly, we were saying, right? That there will be information leading up to getting this thing off the ground. Another thing Olga had been looking into is we're looking into increasing charging stations for cars. There's numbers of proposals being floated around right now. It's a little premature, but that's something we're looking on building. Olga, did I miss anything on that point? If you'd like to shout out.
Well, I have put together some high-level analysis of the two proposals that were submitted to the town.
Right, yeah, we have
From
them.
different vendors. And the good news is that they have taken on full responsibility for a complete turnkey. It's the best proposals we have seen in the number of years that we've been looking at it.
Sharing that with everybody. That just came out today, and I just started looking through it. Richie, I'll go back. Did I miss anything?
No.
That's in a nutshell. Olga, did you want to tap anything? I'm
Just
feeling
that we Olga asked us, she's been doing this now for like 3 years, that down at the lot next to Bob's Restaurant down there, that telephone pole, we kind of took it upon ourselves to try and get electric down to the ground for a hookup, whatever's required. I don't know if they do the whole thing, or if we have to get it down to the ground. We're gonna need to know the specs for that. I'd be happy to help with that, to get a price from Jimmy Connolly or whoever's qualified to do that.
Well, one of the vendors told me today that since there's a transformer on the pole, that they will do work with O&R
Yeah.
to do the drop. So, I mean, like I said, complete turnkey this time. But I think, Justin, you're gonna have to weigh in on their proposed contracts once you guys get to reviewing those contracts and really see if it's really as good as it sounds.
Happy to
Thank you,
do
Joe.
so.
Oh, thank you, Rich. Thank you, Olga, for keeping me honest up here. I'm done.
Councilman Mullin?
Okay, thank you, Supervisor, and good evening, everyone. Just a few things. Let me start with the ambulance corps again. For the month of February, they were back up to a 90% response to calls. That is our ambulance corps responding to the calls. There were a total of 60 calls in which the ambulance corps responded to 54 of them. But as I have mentioned before, calls that were missed were due to the fact that there was not a driver available. So I will continue asking and soliciting your support to volunteer for drivers. I've had some conversations with the ambulance corps regarding all this. It led to a conversation. I want the board to be aware of this and the public in general to be aware of it. It led to a conversation about further defining what are the roles and responsibilities of the ambulance corps vis-à-vis the town board? What kind of, I won't call it a contract, only because to me that has some things associated with it that may not be what we're talking about. But my term is more of a memorandum of agreement between the town board in particular, as the representatives of the town, and the volunteer ambulance corps, because it is a unique situation, I believe, in our community, in which we have an arrangement with a voluntary organization to help provide a critical service. And I think, and in talking with the Jeff Gathers, the captain of the ambulance corps, I think he agrees also that it would be good for us to have this more solidified. He informed me, asked me if I knew, and I did not, that the town board is also the board of commissioners for the Town of Highlands Ambulance District. I was not aware of that. And so we do have an ambulance district. There needs to be some things associated with that ambulance district in which the volunteer ambulance corps is involved with. There's been some conversations about maybe the town should hire drivers. Since we're having problems with drivers, maybe that's something we need to look into and think about. That led to a conversation of, well, if we're going to hire drivers, why don't we hire more EMTs so that when there is a call that goes out, we have 2 EMTs that go out instead of a driver and an EMT. Pay a little bit more to have an EMT as the driver of a vehicle. Something I think that needs to be potentially looked at, perhaps in our role as part of the memorandum of agreement in terms of what is the ambulance corps' responsibilities, and therefore what are the town's responsibilities that need to be looked at. That led to a conversation about EMTs being members or being part of civil service for the town of Highlands, which led to a conversation of we are one of a few ambulance services in Orange County that have to hire EMTs off of the civil service list, because we just have problems within Orange County having people on the civil service list. So there's a number of different things of what could be some potential easy solutions that lead to a lot of other questions. And so I'm just bringing it up again for the public in general comment, but more to follow in terms of, I think, our involvement as a board working with the ambulance corps. And of course, I'd be happy to lead the charge on that, to really get some roles and responsibilities between the two and a little bit of structure. Part of the Board of Commissioners aspect talks to an approval process of the leadership within the ambulance corps also. So again, it's unique to me, and I might be the only one, but it's unique to me where you have this interface between a municipal government and a voluntary organization. And I just think it would be good to clear the air a little bit and really have us all agree on roles and responsibilities. So Jeff is pulling together some information on that, along with some of the other members of the ambulance corps, and we'll be looking at it, reviewing it, and I'll be bringing that back to all of you for your input and everything too. So that's about what's been going on with the ambulance corps for the last couple of weeks, quite frankly. And Councilman King talked about the Community Coalition meeting and the effort that is being done with that. I had the opportunity to attend the March meeting over at the seminar, at the center. And that's been actually going on for a while. I know Chief Perry's been at it before. A number of representatives from both the village and the town have been at it, along with the schools and others. So there's a lot of, COVID has sort of had a little bit of a impact on getting together, but that's going to start taking off, I think, just about monthly. I had an opportunity to attend the Chamber of Commerce meeting that Charlene Yell, the new president of the Chamber of Commerce, hosted. This was back on the 10th of March. Good representation there. A lot of good talk, a lot of good comments, and again, speaking sort of from past history with the Chamber of Commerce, I guess, the strength of that Chamber of Commerce is going to be, like a lot of things, and how well and how many people volunteer to support that. And so again, sort of a call out, not that I was asked to do this, but a call out to support your local Chamber of Commerce. Its strength will be in its involvement and volunteers being involved with that. I'd like to thank Councilman DeWitt and Joe and Pat Patterson. They invited me to a meeting that they had with a representative from West Point associated with the intergovernmental support agreement activity. I had to leave early, so again, my apologies on that. But every indication was that it was a good conversation and good meeting of the minds, talking through some things and everything. So thank you for that opportunity. And then the last thing I have is, and I think you'll be hearing some more about this, another partnership, I guess is a good word, between the West Point Association of Graduates and the Highland Falls Intermediate School. They have jointly are developing something that they call Connect, CONNECT, and it is bringing after-school activities to the intermediate school students. I think one recently had to do with, I want to call them UAVs, and that's not the right word, but drones, drones, UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicle. I'm reverting back to some former stuff, so my apologies on that. But some drones, and there is another one that's coming up here the 16th of March in a couple of days, in which they're going to be doing some things regarding robotics. And they're bringing some cadets in to talk to our students about it and give them some more diversity and some more enrichment in some of the things that they're going to be learning and being exposed to. So probably more to follow on that. I mean, again, that's more information than anything associated with us as a board and everything. And that's it. So thank you very much. Happy
you.
St. Patrick's Day.
Justin, do you have anything?
Just agenda items tonight.
Agenda items.
Oh, well, not on the agenda, but you had mentioned it. Are the roof repairs?
Yeah.
And it does not appear as if a public hearing was held in the past on that issue. So if you do intend to expend funds for the roof from the Town Hall Reserve, then you'd need to schedule a public hearing. If you want, you could schedule that public hearing tonight by motion. That's up to you all, obviously. But I think Kelly confirmed that
Rich, did
no
we
public
get
hearing
in,
had been held.
I know they did the group that gave us the report on it, but I don't think we've gotten,
The last email, because he sent a lot of them out in regard to the roof, was he had a contractor approved to come here and sample for asbestos or whatever. I don't know if he got beyond
yeah, that
that.
was done.
Oh,
And we
okay,
got a report on that.
okay. That I didn't read, so.
But I think we can hold off. I don't see it dripping through, excepting in one place. Until we get an estimate.
More
of
information.
contract.
Sure, that's fine,
I think
too.
We can hold off on
Okay,
that.
just,
But no, thank you for reminding me, though. Kelly, do you have anything? No? Okay. Chief, do you have anything? Yes, you do.
No, we're still actively searching for police officers. We're gonna advertise. We have some folks from within the community or associated with the community for a court officer and police officer spots, but we will be putting out for certified police officers. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think the state police took all your people.
I tried to get on that website, I couldn't.
Supervisor, I forgot to mention that the center also is coordinating Planning Parent University classes for parents at the Highland Falls Intermediate School, covering many topics to include drugs. I don't have a date on that. I don't know if Mary Jane does. Okay, so that's coming. Be on the lookout. More to follow.
Thank you, sir. Okay, general business, we have a resolution to change the section of the employee handbook. I'd like to have it read completely, so if our attorney would do the
Certainly.
for me. My voice, as usual,
Yeah, no.
I lose about this time of night.
Happy to read. Whereas an employee handbook is an effective tool for communicating employment policies and procedures, standards of conduct, pay practices, and employee benefits. And whereas an employee handbook is important in demonstrating the town of Highlands' compliance with federal and state regulations, and where it is a well-established best practice that employees should be provided with the necessary information to fully understand the policies, procedures, rules, and regulations pertaining to their employment. And whereas the town board of the town of Highlands amended, restated, and adopted a comprehensive employee handbook on February 11th, 2019, for the purpose of communicating the town's personnel policies and practices to all employees and elected officials of the town. And whereas the town board has reviewed its provisions related to work on a holiday and would like to amend same, whereas upon diligent review, the town board has determined that it is in the best interests of the town to amend Section 801 entitled Holidays as it pertains to the subsection assigned to work on a holiday in the employee handbook. And whereas the adoption of said amendment is a local legislative decision in connection with continuing agency administration and management and does not include new programs or major reordering of priorities that may affect the environment, and accordingly is a Type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Section 801 entitled Holidays of the Town of Highlands Employee Handbook is hereby amended to revise the subparagraph entitled Assigned to Work on a Holiday to pay employees at the regular rate of pay. The provision shall now read in its entirety as follows. Assigned to work on a holiday. Any FLSA non-exempt employee who works on a designated holiday will receive pay at the employee's regular rate of pay. Be it further resolved that the aforesaid resolution shall take effect immediately.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for a motion to move, and once we get a second, we can have any discussion that might be needed.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I would just make the one comment that this is just having to do with the employee handbook, right? It does not impact your
Union contract.
collectively bargained union contracts.
Okay. Is there any discussion needed? All right.
I think so.
I'll ask for roll call.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilmember Mottlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Livesey.
Aye. Thank you. Resolution to, where are we at here? On our famous water tank.
You want me to summarize that, or?
Yes.
Certainly. It's a little too long to read.
And it's really not important to read, but.
No, a lot of that detail is just setting the background. This resolution speaks to a couple different things. First, it mentions that you've received your funding through the American Rescue Plan Act, or you've received the first portion of that funding. You anticipate a total funding of $856,817.94. And again, you've received the first half of that. Those funds come both with some accounting protocols that your comptroller has to follow that money, track that money, should there ever be an audit in that regard. And it also specifies the types of projects that funding can be used for. And it's very specific in the law. Infrastructure projects, or most infrastructure projects do qualify. And so what this resolution does is allocate that first payment. Maybe that you need to allocate portion of the second payment, but you'll do that if needed. But allocates the first allocation $408.97 to the Corbin Hill Water Tank Improvement Project. This would, and some of the final details on engineering are still being produced by Lankin Tully. This asks Lankin Tully to finalize that, but right now, they are looking at a 48-foot diameter tank with a height of up to 19 feet. That is taking into account the existing tank at that site, as well as the heights of the village tanks, because the tanks have to be able to work in concert in an engineering manner. So at the moment, they are looking at tanks that would allow for between 195,000 gallons and 255,000 gallons of storage. This would, in either case, take you very close to the recommended sort of safe harbor, safe yield for storage, which would provide 1 full day's storage, as well as 2 hours of fire flow protection at the recommended rates. So this would be a significant upgrade for the safety of the community, should there be an issue with the main lines in the village, and should you need to have storage capabilities. It is a Type 2 project under seeker. We just talked about seeker on our last resolution. And so in essence, that's what you're doing, allocating the ARPA funds in the amount of $428,000 to the Corbin Hill Water Tank Improvement Project.
Do I have a motion to move the resolution?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Could we have a little discussion on
Yes,
that?
discussion.
I'm sorry.
No.
So, on this, and I know this has been a topic, you know, I know you all have talked about it before, it's been a topic for a number of years. Is the tank sized the right way? I just,
I just
Don't
sent an email that I don't think you three got from the engineer showing some different options, and I'll kind of paraphrase it. So there's an easement going through a lot up there that we're not gonna use. That neighbor, if he's watching, doesn't need to worry, we're not gonna run the line down their fence line. We're gonna stay within the area of the tank. The current tank elevation, whatever it is barely visible from the cul-de-sac at Corbin Hill, not inhibiting people's visibility of the Hudson River. The new tank will be no higher than that. The diameter can be changed a little bit, and in order to do that, you're increasing costs because there's a retaining wall that has to be built, and it may have to be built bigger depending upon what choice we make. So I think they call it the 10-state standard
That's
for what
correct.
size the tank should be, 2 days flow, 3 days flow, whatever. We currently have 54,000. This new tank could be anywhere between 195,000 and 249,000, depending upon what we choose to do monetarily and otherwise. And it's condensed, it's staying right there next to the existing tank. It'll tee off of existing feeds and drains of the existing tank. And it's based upon what the village tanks are in elevation right now. They could go higher to fill it, but for visibility purposes, not being inhibited, they're going wider rather than higher. That increased cost because the what's the word, geotechnical engineering requires a wall to be built, and about a fourth of this tank is going to be on fill. The rest of it will be on solid ground. So I sent the email out. I hope that answers your question at least a little bit.
okay. No, that does, thank you. And we're using the impact aid dollars for all this, which is a good thing. Just want to make sure everyone
That's
is aware of that from the federal government. And is the entire cost of the project going to be covered, or do we know? Is the entire cost of the project going to be covered by that $400 and some odd thousand in aid that we're receiving, or do we know?
We don't know definitively. We do anticipate that it will probably be slightly above 400, but well within the 800,000 that you will ultimately receive.
Okay.
It's just that the next funding date is, I believe,
We
July.
need, right.
So not all the funds have been in, so far
Right.
you've allocated the 428. Yeah, absolutely, it would, right. The preliminary estimates are 500 to 550, but So probably likely more than the 428, but
So this is
substantially less than the 856.
So this is basically obligating the funding we're receiving, because if we don't obligate, I don't know if obligate's the right word or not, but we're obligating this funding to this project in the time frame in which the government, federal government, is mandating it needs to be obligated by, and then there's going to be a follow-on amount of funding afterwards, if I remember how this all works.
We have to file a report with the federal government by the end of April. I don't know all the details yet, but they'll be asking for, I'm sure that this is part of it, that we have the project identified for using the fund.
Yeah, okay.
We have a good engineer.
Yeah.
Because we're on TV, I've learned not to say just what the estimate is, so if somebody bids, it's non-collusive. It's over 400,000 and less than 800,000 for everything we're gonna do. And the things that we've had done, over a year ago, I asked there to be a survey done to get the ball rolling. I've had Kelly try and keep all that as part of being paid out of this, because that's legitimately what it's coming out of. So,
And then any leftover funding that we may have coming from the federal government, we will put to good use
Yeah,
for some
the
other
sewer plant needs
infrastructure.
more-
The sewer
needs
plant's
more.
what I'm thinking, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you, I'm sorry for.
You're welcome.
Oh, that's fine. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilmember Modlin?
Aye.
Supervisor Livesey?
Aye. Okay, the next resolution came about, the homeowners association in Corbin Hill is planning on replacing all of the steps and decks that all the buildings have. I guess they're in bad shape. The project, okay, our building permit says that any project $20,000 and more needs to have a written drawing, architectural drawing, or whoever's going to do an engineering drawing for $20,000 and more. So what they're saying at Corbin Hill is this project individually is not going to cost $20,000, so therefore they should not have to have written architectural reviews. So what I suggested, and Philip thought it was a good idea, is that along with the 20,000 and above you must, okay? Under $20,000, it would be up to the discretion of the building inspector. It's not just aimed at Corbin Hill, it's probably lacking in the building permit. So, Justin?
Yeah, that was the latest example, but the issue has arisen in other projects of a technical nature, even though they're not necessarily costly. The building department wasn't receiving proper plans to assure that it could be done safely.
And historically, if I can just speak to this for a moment, Justin knows, he cringes when I talk, but I'll just have to get over it. When I was on the planning board, we had an engineer a while back. We had a project which is going down to the sewer plant, where the reviews for the project were costing more by the town than what the engineering firm hired by the applicant to design and build these things was charging. So what I want to say is your planning board, your building department, go out of their way to try and recognize that the common Joe has the right to try and build upon their property. And then the planning board is they make sure people follow the rules. They allow people one informal meeting, sometimes two, sometimes three. There's one applicant that's been 3 times before them. They're very good that way. But then it's time to get down to business. And we don't have decks falling off of buildings in town for the most part. And I sent out pictures of some of these decks. Some of them are something that the casual observer can see is not someone you can just have a carpenter do without design work. So this will give Phil that discretion. And I think he went to Delhi. He's pretty well versed on all this stuff. He'll use it wisely.
Okay, so the resolution authorizing building permit language and fee amendments, well, there's no amendment to the fee, I don't think, but...
Yeah, there were 2 minor amendments.
Well, then, go ahead, you read this.
So for whatever reason, right, there's quite a few different types of building permits: construction additions, roof siding, accessory sheds, connection permits, demolition, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And almost all of them had a set fee and then $10 for each additional $1,000 evaluation. There were two, the building permit, roof siding, and the electrical permit that had it at $5 for each 1,000 evaluation thereafter. And so Phil's recommendation was for uniformity that all building permits be at that plus $10 for each $1,000 evaluation. I thought he circulated this.
No, on my,
Okay. They're
Go
very
ahead.
modest changes. I don't know if you want to glance at them.
I took a
They're
glance.
highlighted in gray, one's at the top.
If you're not comfortable, we could table it till next meeting, till it's circulated, whatever everybody, feels like doing on that. But
I'm comfortable with that. I mean, we're only talking minor changes, and I think it's important to get this other one done for Corbin Hill.
Well,
I'm-
and all
I'm
the-
comfortable.
All other fees were at that
yeah,
level. I'm not sure why there would be any distinguishing characteristic for the type of work,
right.
but your discretion.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I have a question or comment.
yeah, okay.
And this has nothing to do with the person at all, with Phil or anyone who may at some point in the future be sitting in our building department. I'm just sort of wondering about the discretion piece, because what might be a discretion to Joe may be something totally different for me. And do we need to have some kind of constraints or some kind of identification of the types of things that discretion would be applied to? And what I'm getting at is, hopefully not, but I can't help but foresee a scenario that Joe is putting a deck on his house and it's about the same size and looks awful lot like the same deck I'm putting on my house. He gets to be able to do it without anything, but for some reason, I don't. And it's based upon the discretion of the building department. And I don't want to get our building department or our building inspector in the middle of that kind of discussion. And so I'm just sort of wondering, do we need to help him in terms of what kinds of things can he use his discretion for, and then be sure that that is applicable between various people that might be applying for this discretionary type of call. Again, this is a what-if type of thing and all this other type of stuff, but I just don't think we want to set him up to get in the middle of judging between a couple of different scenarios that may be on by us who don't necessarily know better might be questioning, why did this person get the excusal from the requirement and I couldn't?
Yeah, let me ask you this. So not you personally, Jim. I'm just thinking out loud about what you're saying. It's a good point. And I think back to the previous, or couple, some time ago, building inspectors, right? But at the same time, I'm saying to myself, these guys got a certain level of expertise that they bring to that position. They got to be qualified. They got to be certified. They got to go through certain vetting process, and then they are the subject matter experts at that point. Because who do they punt the ball to? Us? After if there's no discretion by them, do they say, other than this guy, right? He's like an expert or something. But
I'll just say that a little bit of a check on that is he has a liaison that is miserable to him if I think he's stalling something. That's an understatement, okay? So that part I can attest to. A few weeks ago, I was coming home from work across the Newburgh Beacon Bridge, going through that portion of Newburgh to go on River Road, and apparently I failed the turn signal, and I had somebody from Frank's World pull me over and maybe thought I was drunk or something. So he shined the flashlight in my eyes. I said, I'll do any test you want. As I always do, I put my hands out the window with my keys in it. I said, I'll walk a straight line, whatever. And he said, no, I can see you're okay. Completely at his discretion, he let me go. Part of Phil's job that's inherently a part of it. And there's always gonna be people that are gonna call and say that he's outlandish and whatnot. I don't wanna refer to this case specifically, that gentleman was spoken to today and whatnot. He inherited something, it's about 30 years old now, there's decks falling down and whatnot. And I'm going to stand by Phil on this one. If he didn't have that discretion, there'd be decks being built that I think are dangerous, as a casual observer. So, so you're correct. Every once in a while, people can get outside their boundaries. I don't let Phil get too much of that. He doesn't get away with much of that.
I think the thing that we got to realize is that Phil is a town employee. He's a town employee. He's hired by us. He's responsible to us, the town board. And if he's doing something that we feel as though is wrong, you got a phone call, then we're going to call him in and say, hey, Phil, what's going on here? And possibly, since he's the expert, he may explain it to us in a very good manner.
Yeah.
Or he may say something like, well, I don't like that guy, what have you. Well, then we got to step on him. But I feel as though we have enough power over the building inspector to correct him.
So I guess to the point, and again, the concept itself, I'm all in favor of, quite frankly. And again, it has nothing to do with whoever may be sitting in the building department. Councilman King brings up a good point. What happens when Phil moves on to another job and we get a new building inspector? Well, Phil said, this is okay, but Jim says it's not okay. Well, he had his discretion, I have my discretion. So there's that potential scenario, all of this being what if. But I guess part of this too, I think, is what we're saying, is that if someone does disagree with Phil's or whoever the building officer is, if someone disagrees with that call, they always have the opportunity to come to one of us, come to a town board meeting, and almost as an appeal type of thing. So, okay.
We had a ZBA
I think that's needs to be
This has happened in the
clear.
past where we've changed building inspectors.
Right.
And John said this was okay. How come you're saying it's not?
It's not, right.
Well, because we have a new code, and the new code says it's not okay. So they do come to us and.
Yeah, very recently, the demolition of the Christina Hotel and Penn Fed, like the pressure was on from a lot of people. The developer writes letters to the paper, which he has the right to do that. I can tell you the pressure was pretty intense upon Phil. Now, the night before that actually started, there was a Jersey barrier put in place that was blocking an entryway to a residence that was currently occupied. Little things like that I'm gonna have to stand by him on, but I wrote him hard, and finally, he gave the permit and the building is down,
And we're talking about $20,000 and less, too.
That's
So,
right.
so it's not gonna be big projects. I just don't wanna
That's right.
get us in, I mean, it's all a good, right idea. I just don't wanna set him up for, or who, he or she, whoever
Right.
it may be, for, some situations.
That's good.
For the community.
Regardless of the cost of a project, there's still a building code that's enforced regardless of the price.
That's correct.
That's correct. I mean, so like with the pictures you showed of the decks.
But say, like, if we went to Perry's and you scribbled on a napkin and handed it to Phil, he might not take that as an accepted drawing for a project. And these decks are multiple dwelling homes, some of them are 25 feet high, kind of want to make sure they're right. And he
When you
just
go
saw
back to,
some
like-
things going wrong, and at his discretion, he issued some violations up there, and he was right to do so.
Like you say, all those decks, remember in the news here a couple years back, decks collapsing with people partying, and that deck could be built maybe for 10 grand, but if it's not safe, it's still gonna come under
That's right.
this group.
And you know what's amazing? I've seen...
Thank you.
People are clever. I've seen in my time doing this in 25 years, there's $100,000 projects that people can do for 10 grand. I'm just always amazed by how clever they are with that, but...
Yeah, and even playing with that number 20,000. So I do a little cheat, and I put some materials off to the side, and I come in with $19,000. Then you are tying his hands the way it's written.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a resolution authorizing the change in the building permit language and fee amendments, which is a separate page. Do I have a motion to move the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilmember Moblin?
Aye.
Supervisor Lipsy?
Aye.
Thank you all for trusting me.
Anytime. Prior to this meeting, we had an interview session where the town board interviewed a potential court officer and a potential police officer. The court officer was Arthur Brunwasser. Would anybody like to move his name?
I'll make the motion to hire Art.
I'll second.
Okay. We
It
would,
hasn't been approved by the county.
oh, okay. We are approving contingent on the county's approval, and we would hiring him according to the pay schedule and with the maximum probation. Is that okay now, Kelly?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. We had a young man by the name of Brian Shiver. He has applied for the part-time job and as a police officer. He was interviewed by the chief and deputy chief. They moved him on to the town board. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Same county approval.
Same thing, based on the county approval, and he would be, according to the salary schedule, and maximum probation. Okay. I have the water tank project twice, just in case we didn't pass it earlier. I wanted to try it
We
again.
got a motion, a second, we have to vote.
Say what?
We didn't vote, did we?
I'm sorry, I guess we didn't vote. Town clerk didn't tell me we didn't vote. On Mr. Shriver,
Motion and a
motion and
second.
a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Everybody said aye. Thank you. See, June usually catches me on that. Okay, now, our recreation director has, I don't know, did you know more about this than I do, Jim?
No,
No. Okay.
no.
Does anybody know more about this?
I know
than
what
do?
Aaron's doing, but I don't,
Apparently,
haven't been involved with this.
Aaron is, do you know?
Well,
No.
not much more, but all I know is, I talked to Pat, and the equipment that Aaron wants to get to work with the cadets for the community outreach the town has agreed to kind of oversee the equipment, maintenance, whatever, and it's equipment that can be used beyond the scope of Aaron's project, so.
Was that in the email that he just sent recently?
Yeah, I did send, actually, I
Yeah.
might have sent it today, but,
And, he went out and got the three bids on the gear, so it's a matter of,
it's not, to me now, it's not so much the matter of dollars and cents. There's $10,000 in community service budget, I guess you'll call. It was a donation from years ago, from a local resident. We haven't spent anything out of it.
We spent,
We have
we
spent
have
some.
about $6,600 left.
Oh, okay, I thought you told me it was 10, but it was, and then it was 10, okay. The problem I have is Aaron, according to his own admission, is overworked. He's working weekends, he's working 80 hours a week. You've all read the letters that Aaron has sent us. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he sent us a number. Now, I'm not saying we don't want this help from West Point, but I'm saying, does Aaron have enough time to supervise this help? To make sure that they have the equipment in the morning, supervise them during the day, to pick up the equipment at night? Does he have that kind of time? I think not, but that's me. And definitely it's a question for the board.
this is pretty fresh, so I haven't had a chance to talk to him about this. Amongst the other things I was saying about, trimming your schedule a little bit, because, he's he's got a lot on his plate.
Oh, he does, he does.
No doubt about it, and thank God. I mean, he does great things for the community. But one man can only do so much, and, this goes back to Jim talking about earlier about volunteerism, especially in a community, you need more and more of it.
So again, I have no problem with the amount of money we're spending, a couple of $1,000s, I think it is, for lawn mower.
I guess you could look at, the argument could be, with again, trying to, do work with our neighbors, and and cadets don't want to come in and do some heavy lifting on projects around the town. There's some things that, again, I know you're not talking about just the cost, but that could be offset by the labor that, we gain on it. It doesn't sound like this equipment would go to waste in the town garage anyway.
Yeah.
Whether it's used in this program based on what you brought up about Aaron's schedule, I still think maybe it's worth, it balances out that it might be worth trying again if the cadets want to come in and do again, as it says here, the heavy lifting and even if you can get them started and like you said, to transform the Little League and Ponytail softball fields, it's an opportunity to get these fields right so the kids have a good playing surface for this new year, especially with COVID going away slowly. Maybe we could step up to the plate and take a shot and work with Aaron on it. It might be worth I don't want to say the word gamble, but it might be worth the balance of giving it a shot. Again, the equipment is not, I don't think it's taxing the budget.
No, it's like I say, it's in the community.
And again,
Community service.
Yeah.
it's a community service, right?
For, day-to-day operations.
And if it doesn't work, the equipment can go right to the town garage.
Right.
I mean, there's no problem.
So it's not a waste
I'm
of,
just worried about Aaron and the amount of time he's got to put into it.
Again, so the gift was given for community service purposes.
Yes.
So it can't just easily be,
Yes.
it can't easily just be given over to the town garage.
Oh, okay.
So the original grant was 10,000, is that correct? And there's about 6,000 left. Does anybody know what it was used for historically?
It was used for community service, I think, for the court, for they would do work with, the.
So
ambulance
that's
corps.
similar, not that the cadets are going to court, but that's a similar use of the money.
Right, it was used for, I remember buying, like weed whackers and things like that. Bill Strobel would take people who were sentenced to community service, and he would oversee that, and he would use those types of things, what always we did.
I know at the Patriot Garden, which was like 26 weekends in 1 year, I worked there. We had cadets quite often. We were going to anybody's house we could to find a rake or a shovel. Even now, now in that hut is all private stuff there. So I would support the equipment for not just cadets, but for any community service related to the use of this equipment under whoever's supervision. If it were to be the Patriot Garden or Weed Whacker, I'd be happy to watch cadets use it over there. So for Aaron's project, that's great, but it doesn't just have to be for Aaron. Anything community service related, and Pat has indicated he has room and is willing to keep it up there. And I don't know what the total monetary amount is. I know there's some Pomona Power gave all the lowest prices, but,
It's about,
16, what was it,
yeah,
16?
1,038 and 558.
okay.
And it was Pat said that, and the brand of equipment is the top quality. I mean, it's a good
Correct.
price, and it's good, the equipment's got good
We
longevity.
get all this stuff from Pomona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and the other thing too, like you said, to go with what Richie just said, it's spring. Wyandotte Park could use some sprucing up. There's a lot of probably projects we could look if this program could work. I did not know about the grant money, so I didn't factor that into my thought process, so my apologies on that.
So then, this equipment then can be used by not just cadets, by anybody the court might sentence to community service and what have you. Okay.
Yeah, and I think, and I've heard a little bit about this, but I think now that things seem to be emerging from COVID, and quite frankly, I think it has a lot to do and a lot to say about some of the young people too, about wanting to do community service types of things. And in this particular case, the cadets are wanting to get into, would like to be able to get into the local community. And, it's, I'll put it in quotes, but almost like free labor. And, which I think is what Joe was talking about a little bit, but, there needs to be some equipment and stuff like that, I guess, I think is where Aaron is coming from on this. And, but I agree with, Bob, what you're saying, that, I mean, Aaron needs to be, we need to be mindful of, is he spreading himself too thin? And, so that may be a separate conversation. And, but, I, for one, would think that, if we can get some man and woman power in here to help us spruce some things up and get some fields going and work with our youth and help educate them and exercise them and improve the quality of life.
All right, would you like to make a motion to move on with the proposed program that Aaron has set up and to purchase the equipment?
I would. Do we need to first have a conversation with Aaron to make sure he can manage this? Or do we not need to tie it to that?
I could plan on doing that. I still think.
Go ahead and go forward with this?
Go forward with it, and I could work with him and be part of I'll even be part of the volunteer thing, because it's really about supervise, you got a project going, we
Yeah.
need people to come in and supervise, but
Right.
I don't know what the hour commitment is, but.
And
Yeah, I
honestly,
think if it's a matter of community service, which the money that it's paying for this comes from the budget of community, it has to be used for community service.
Yep.
So with that being said, then the conversation is bigger than Aaron. He's the person that's initiating this.
Right.
and Tiffany
Right.
sent me what we're voting on, 2 backpacks and 2 commercial trimmers. That's what we're voting on. Those are generically useful things for any outdoor project.
Right.
So I don't think it's a bad use of that money for the intent.
Okay, so then we'll trim the motion down to buy the equipment.
Yeah,
Okay.
buy the equipment, because then you have access to stuff that you can get community service done with.
Okay, Jim made the
Don't make it a
motion, you
part
made
of
the
Aaron's
motion. You seconded
responsibility.
it? All right.
All right,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Motion is to buy the equipment.
Thank you.
You was following it, huh?
Cross off the other piece.
And Joe, you're gonna talk to Aaron.
I will.
And maybe we could pick that up at our next meeting then, so we can keep this thing moving.
Okay,
But
fair
at-
enough.
At a next board meeting?
You got it.
Any other business we haven't
Because of
talked
promise.
about?
Oh, I think that did it.
There is, but,
I think that did it.
public comment? Anybody? Yes, sir.
I'm just saying, you can,
We gotta know your name and need you to come up to the microphone.
And then tell me your
Come on,
social
Mike,
security
don't be
number
shy.
and we'll keep going.
Michael Joyce, 12 Eagle Valley. The thing about the parking, I was at the village meeting, and maybe because of all the back and forth, but I believe the contractor said that he had worked the parking in for his scheme of work. The other thing was, somebody brought up a good point, who lives in this community. He said the parking lots that we already have, I know they did it in Europe because other places have the same problem we have, being constricted, with area and what you can do. He said you can go up 1 story and make it kind of look like a building. Anyway, they just put that out there. He said it's just an engineering thing. The other thing about parking spots and deliveries, again, like in Europe, and I don't know how legal this is, except for handicap parking, but they have areas where it's like multitasking, where at certain times cars can park there, but then on delivery times, a car cannot park there because it's used for a truck delivery. And I know sometimes, like in Main Street here, some business owners have to kind of grab the spot for their delivery truck, which is kind of taken away from other businesses because people want to park and avail of their product. So maybe, kind of thinking outside the box. I don't know. As I'm saying, besides handicap parking, leave them alone. And God bless them. But the other parking spots, maybe you can multitask on them Anyway, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We're already doing it on Main Street, but I've seen the hardware stores will block off a section.
Yeah.
They get their delivery and then they're out of there, and then it's
Yeah.
back open to the public.
My comments are, no, the village board is an elected, intelligent group of people. It's their jurisdiction to act on it and whatnot. Being on the liaison to the building department, and I was a former planner, I just want to inject the fact that I don't look at this subjectively. There's a way to do it objectively, and our code can lead you. There's numbers that tell you what square footage you need for certain things, including automobiles. Begs the question, do you want 1 car, 1.5, 2 cars for a spot? It snows in this area. Just trying to throw my 2 cents in that it's not subjective, that's all.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
So carried, thank you.